Welcome, everybody. Today, I'm really excited to talk about the healing that happens when we work with the Wahls Protocol. One of my biggest and most inspiring mentors, Dr. Terry Wahls. Let's just give it a couple of minutes here. I hope that you guys are all doing well and taking steps daily towards being healthier, even if they're small steps. They're consistent on a weekly basis, maybe not every day. Welcome to those of you who are new to me and our Biohacking Supermom session that is talking about the Wahls Protocol. All right. So we're going to talk about the Wahls Protocol today and give you some information, share with you this really transformational approach to healing that I use with not just my MS patients, it was developed for MS, but for my autoimmune patients and for all my patients that are healing. I use a lot of concepts that the Wahls Protocol has. I've successfully helped many patients with MS and the starts of MS put their symptoms into remission. And I'm happy to say they're all doing very well still, learning how to heal their body and take care of themselves, specifically with tools that are good for them. Okay, so the Wahls Protocol is a radical new way to treat all chronic autoimmune conditions. It was developed by Dr. Terry Wahls. She's a medical doctor. She's in the Department of Neurology and Internal Medicine at University of Iowa. She was my instructor at the Institute for Functional Medicine. And I've actually even taken her health practitioner training to become a certified Wahls coach. One of the things that she and I always like to say is there's a disclaimer here. All the statements and products shown in this presentation on her website and my website have not been evaluated by any Food and Drug Administration, US or Canadian. The statements and the products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. I expressly disclaim all liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on any or all the information or other contexts of these material. They're just for educational purposes. This information doesn't create a relationship, doctor-patient relationship with myself or Dr. Wahls, and you have to seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health practitioners if you have questions, and you may have some regarding your own medical condition prior to starting any dietary routines, exercises, or supplements. So here we go. Dr. Terry Wahls. I had the very fortunate occasion to be trained by Dr. Wahls when I was doing my functional medicine training. And when I went to her practitioner training, a small group of us spent a weekend together really learning how to create an epidemic of health. This is truly my my mission in life, and Dr. Terry Wahls' mission in life is to create an epidemic of health. We have an epidemic of chronic illness and disease in our youth, mental health issues, dementia in our aging population, and with using these steps and tools that she developed in helping herself heal, doctors around the world are using these tools to create a true epidemic of health. So let me ask you, I'd love to start this conversation with asking you, how many cups of vegetables do you think that you eat in 24 hours? Is it 2 cups? Is it 3 cups? Is it 4 cups? Is it 6 to 8 cups? Are you plant strong? Most people don't have even 2 cups a day. And what we know that most chronic diseases are lifestyle induced, with diet and lifestyle being the major thing that will shift them into healing or into more chronicity, from heart disease and stroke to diabetes and obesity, metabolic syndrome, some cancers, and even MS. And we know there is an epidemic of autoimmune disease. The stats say that 25 million Americans have serious autoimmune diagnoses. 75 million Americans have pain, fatigue, and brain fog, and even antibodies. So in my own practice, It may look like a patient who's gone to 6 or 7 doctors and still can't stop being tired, reacts to all food, has brain fog, and nothing that they're doing is helping. And it usually takes between 7 to 8 years for someone with an autoimmune condition to actually be diagnosed. They bump around from doctor to doctor. It is truly an epidemic. And what I'm seeing in my pediatric practice is quite concerning. It is an epidemic that is starting to proliferate into our youngest members of our society. I see teenagers with thyroiditis and autoimmune thyroiditis and Crohn's and colitis. We had a 9-year-old with rheumatoid arthritis the other day. So we are not only having an epidemic here, but we are spending billions of dollars on drug treatments to help with the symptoms. But immune dysfunction can be treated, it can be stabilized, it can be reversed, and it can do this with therapeutic diet and lifestyle interventions. This is what I do with functional medicine. This is what I do in my practice. I'm going to share with you a little bit more today. Which of these maybe best describes you or a loved one that you are here to listen for, or that you are going to tell some information to after this talk? Do you have symptoms, but you don't have a diagnosis, but you're looking to educate yourself on, the newest things that can help autoimmune health? Maybe you're like Dr. Wahls and you have optic neuritis, painful eyes of multiple sclerosis, and you just want to protect yourself from future damage. You want to stop your condition. Maybe you've heard of other people who have recovered using the Wahls Protocol, and maybe a friend is working with me and that's why you're here. And you want to learn how to help recover yourself. This is the talk for you. Or maybe you have another autoimmune condition or brain-related problem like Alzheimer's and dementia, and you want to do all that you can to help protect your brain from future neuroinflammation. This is a little bit about Dr. Terry Wahls. She's a clinical researcher at University of Iowa. She was funded $1 million to do a research grant by the National MS Society, and she rigorously analyzed her Wahls diet plans, and she's researched the public publications, and she's created and published multiple peer-reviewed publications with her research studies, and she travels all around the world trying to spread the word and trying to cause an epidemic of health by using the findings of her research studies and her diet plans, her Wahls diet plans, to help people heal from chronic conditions. Now, Dr. Terry's life was not this way before. She was diagnosed with remitting relapsing multiple sclerosis. In 2003, she was, sitting a lot in a wheelchair. By 2007, she was sitting in a recline tilt chair and wheelchair, hardly able to hold her head up. And with her 2 small children and her partner, she was really trying everything she could, and nothing was working to stop the decline, and she was declining rapidly. She had probably her biggest symptom that she always relates to us is this electrical face pain from trigeminal neuralgia, which happened in 1980. And it would just get worse and worse, and it would stop her in her tracks. She had leg weakness, which led to her diagnosis of MS in 2000, restlessness and weakness. She took all the potential modifying drugs, and it just got worse and worse. She really got to a place, I remember asking her, how did she pick herself up and start doing some work? And she said she just didn't want her kids to see her give up. She didn't want her kids to not see her fight. And so she really wanted to model resilience for them and was going to go on a path to do whatever she can. So she began reading profusely and experimenting everything she read on herself. She learned a more detailed framework for understanding the interaction between environment, genetics, lifestyle, and biochemical functioning of our cells. And this is called personalized lifestyle medicine. And that all of these things, along with genetic predispositions and triggers, created these chronic conditions. She focused on creating the most optimal environment for her cells and her brain cells and her mitochondria. And that's where she started to see herself heal. She focused on exercise and movement and nutrition and hydration. Those were the first things that she did. And she integrated her knowledge of basic science and human evolutionary biology. She took principles from ancestral health and functional medicine. And when she put these all together in a framework, things started to shift, and rapidly. She had 7 years of declining using conventional treatment. Like I said, she could hardly hold her head up in this wheelchair, and she had to stop teaching and practicing. She was an MD. And a year after trying and using those principles of functional medicine and basic ancestral medicine, she was riding her bike fully and had spent 7 years, in this wheelchair. So she had to relearn how to do all this. But it was unbelievably, radically transformational. And it's one of the reasons why I'm always inspired by her and listening to her speak, because her journey was so transformational. And it really started with basic things. And, after 7 years of the best conventional treatment for MS, she really went down this other path. And 12 months into this new diet and lifestyle protocol, she began to become pain-free. I think I remember hearing her tell me that it took about 2 or 3 months when she stopped having that remitting triggering neuralgia pain in her face that she would get so frequently that would stop her in her tracks. That would be so painful. And she was able to complete at the end of this year an 18.5-mile bike ride with her family, which she had only dreamed that would be possible. Never actually once in her wildest dreams, she said to me, did she think that she would ever, go into remission and get back that function. She just wanted to model this resilience for her children. And in 2008, she stopped using her disease-modifying drugs, and she's had none since then. And she's soared still, and she teaches all around the world. She studied the same interventions that she used in her recovery when she started doing her clinical trials. And she got funded by the MS Society, like I showed you. And she did a modified Paleolithic diet. She did a home exercise program with neuromuscular electrical stimulation. So for patients who needed their muscle mass, patients who already had weakness in their legs or arms, we added this. There was stress management, and then some vitamins and nutritional supplements. And using this multimodal intervention approach, she began to see incredible results in her own clinical trials. The Wahls diet was studied, actually, because initially they were like, well, we can't do this. You've got to follow the RDA recommendations. And when they checked the Wahls diet and compared it to the typical standard American US diet, it consistently showed a higher intake of vitamins, minerals, and fats compared to the standard diet. So if you look at red was the standard American diet and blue was the Wahls diet, from vitamin D to calcium to magnesium to vitamin C and niacin and riboflavin, it hit higher percentages around the board. So initially being touted as an elimination diet, it was much more nutritionally adequate. Part of this diet, truly the tenets were stopping the inflammatory food, gluten, processed food of any kind, eggs for some people. In her case, it was eggs, all dairy products, and all processed sugars. And her foundational protocol, the Wahls Protocol, which for those of you who are struggling and not working with somebody yet and want somewhere to start, this is where we start. We start by eating this every day. Now, I'm almost 6 feet tall. So for me to get 3 cups of greens, 3 cups of colored fruits and veggies, and 3 cups of sulfur-containing vegetables, it's not a problem. I tried this with my children. At the time, I want to say they were 6, 8, and 10. They were able to get about 7 cups of this a day. So that's a lot. It's a lot of produce. But what she found was when you got this much nutrition and this much plant fiber to feed the microbiome, the biochemical processes of life would start to fix themselves and work properly, and healing would take place. The Wahls diet only uses grass-fed meats and organ meats and wild fish as a source of protein to power up that mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the body and helps detoxify and run muscular function and brain function. And this is kind of what some of those meals look like: a beautiful fruit smoothie. You get lots of those cups of fruits and veggies in there. And we have Brussels sprouts and cooked greens and lamb chops. And we have a big, huge salad with many different kinds of plants. And this is just an example of what that would look like. I know in my own house, we use a lot of spices and herbs are the original superfood. One of the challenges that Dr. Wahls and I spoke about, and one of the challenges I pose to my patients is, can you get 200 different plants in your body a year? And the reason being is that our microbiome, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we had lots of different plants and tubers and roots and shoots, and we had a much more robust microbiome. The bacteria in our gut that ran the biochemical processes of life, made our B vitamins, made our K vitamins, was helpful for neurotransmitter to make our dopamine and our serotonin. And over the years, as we became industrialized, we started to eat less and less diversity. And when they studied the Human Genome Project, what they found was, if we were to look at our ancestral Paleolithic selves, our hunter-gatherer selves, we had something like 200, we would need to eat 200 different species and types of plants. And now herbs, you can use all different kinds of herbs, those are included, in a year to just increase and maintain that diversity in our microbiome for good health. And both Dr. Wahls and I agree that the microbiome is the key to health. And so, nourishing your microbiome through your food is one of the keys here. And it was one of the healing things that really helped Dr. Wahls put her MS in remission, and has helped her and myself and other Wahls practitioners help patients and people around the world do the same. Here is a multimodal intervention study that showed that fatigue and quality of life with people with progressive multiple sclerosis changed when they were on the Wahls Protocol. And if you see the top two lines here, it showed how quality of life improved over time. And the 5-point improvement was clinically significant. The bottom is the decrease in fatigue and severity. And this was the largest decrease in fatigue ever reported to date, even for the most severely disabled group of MS patients studied to date. So this really showed that when we put using this multimodal approach with stress reduction, physical exercise, diet and lifestyle and supplement, how you could increase the quality of life and improve fatigue dramatically and statistically significantly in this pilot study. When they looked at anxiety and depression scores in the non-pharmacological approach to treating people with MS, because depression and anxiety were quite prevalent, they showed a huge decline over time when using this approach as well. Here's another study that showed that the quality of life improved in this randomized controlled study when using the Wahls Protocol and approach with patients with relapsing and remitting MS. So this was huge. These research studies were huge. And in 2016, a fourth clinical trial was studied. Like I said, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society and University of Iowa, where she teaches, launched a $1 million clinical trial to test the dietary approaches to treating just fatigue in MS. And I would say in my own practice, and maybe some of you who are here have been referred by these patients, fatigue was one of the first things that started to lift and brain fog with my patients when I start working with them in this multimodal functional medicine approach using the Wahls Protocol as the foundational aspect. You can find more videos and research papers here at terrywahls.com/research papers. There's a lot of information here. So if you have a loved one that's suffering with a recurrent progressive autoimmune condition or MS, take a look at this information. It's incredible how much we can shift things just using this foundational lifestyle and diet approach. And here you can find some more information. So what we're really starting to see is that there's a greater recognition that diet choices impact which genes are turned on and off, microbes that influence gene expression and immune function, that vitamin levels and toxin levels influence immune function, and that all sorts of environmental factors can influence the risk of developing autoimmune issues. And not only the risk, but how severe the symptoms will be and how resistant they are to treatment. So that's such a multimodal causation here to all of these things: type 1 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, not just MS. We know that the immune system's in the microbiome. This is why, for those of you who have worked with me or heard me speak, I'm such a big proponent of balancing out the microbiome. using functional medicine testing and functional medicine approaches, nourishing ourselves from a plant-strong, grass-fed meat, healthy fats perspective, like Dr. Wahls does, getting rid of this high fat, high salt, high processed food Western diet, which can really impact the microbiome and create this immune imbalance. And so more scientists are actually starting to see this and agree, and more scientists are starting to see that, stressors, that the microbiome is affected by brain function and can create brain inflammation and can reduce brain inflammation. And that gut health is one of the most important things to address, which is why I like to call myself like the gut health doctor, because it does all start from your gut. And there's so many factors, but if you're not absorbing or eating the nutrition that you need to heal, it's really hard to move forward. And people do keep progressing, no matter how many supplements and pills you take. Like I love to say, you can't out-supplement a bad diet and lifestyle. You have to work on the stress. You have to work on picking healthy, nourishing food that's going to build your body, your mitochondria, and your microbiome. More scientists agree that this is the approach. And in 2019, they recommended, it was recommended actually for MS to either do drug treatment or not, but to start adding this exercise and stress reduction and improved diet quality and removing toxins and not smoking. And this has been really, really exciting, because I think people in the functional medicine and holistic medicine world has been fighting for this for a long time. And now seeing these research studies come out and having more and more scientists come up with the same results in these randomized clinical trials, it really gives us a framework to start talking about this. And my favorite framework is the Wahls Protocol. I'm so passionate, and I have seen it time and time again, help people heal and put their symptoms into remission. So how many cupfuls of vegetables are you going to eat in the next 24 hours? Do you think you're going to try and get to the 3, 3, and 3? Now, the sulfur-containing vegetables they talked about are things like they're detoxifying, and that's why they're on there. They're extremely detoxifying vegetables, and they are onions and garlic and mushrooms and cabbage. And so some people have a hard time with sulfur-containing food at some times when their microbiome is really off. That's why working with a healthcare practitioner like myself, or someone who does an analysis of your gut microbiome, is really, really important, because you can't, if you can't eat detoxifying food, then it's really hard to keep healthy, because our diet is full of, we are full of chemicals in our environment, in our food, and our plastics. And so picking the most whole food, the most clean food, is one thing, but having the ability to naturally detoxify by eating detoxifying food and sulfur-containing ones are important, which is why Dr. Wahls has those 3 cups of sulfur-containing vegetables. The colorful fruits and vegetables, which are the 3 cups. Maybe let's go back down to that. If you are interested, pick up her book. It's a great place to start. If you have a friend who's suffering with an autoimmune condition that they can't put into remission, or that's getting worse and worse, or someone, a loved one that is just getting sicker and sicker and not getting help. Maybe they're bouncing around from doctor to doctor. This is such a great place to start. It's a very affordable way to start. You can pick up this book, and this new version, which came out a couple of years ago, just has some revisions to it. If you need some ideas, the Wahls Protocol, Cooking for Life, is a great book. Again, these you can find on Amazon or at your local retailers. I just want to go back up to this slide here, so we can just go over, where did it go? There. So for those of you, if we just want to talk quickly about how is this helping heal. So the green leafy vegetables contain folate, calcium, magnesium, all kinds of other nutrients. And we don't get enough greens. And this is why it's good to eat your greens. If you have kale, you may want to boil it. Some of those high oxalate greens like kale and spinach, like this is beautiful, and Swiss chard. If you have a problem with oxalates, you might want to boil them for 5 to 10 minutes first. That's what I tell a lot of my patients. I have a lot of patients right now who are suffering from mold toxicity. So there's a lot of oxalates in their body from the mycotoxins in their environment. So I have them boiling their greens, maybe boiling and freezing and throwing into a smoothie. You can get a lot of cups into a smoothie, and you can mix that with some of these colored greens. We use a lot of healthy fats like avocado and olives. Olives are incredibly detoxifying, and coconut milk and coconut cream, which is also those good fats that will help dampen inflammation, especially neuroinflammation in your brain and your nervous system, which for MS is key, and also for my dementia patients. We want 3 cups of colorful fruits and veggies, and we want something from every color. So we try and get something that's red and something that's black and something that's purple and something that is orange and yellow. We want to get all the colors because every single color of plants has a different phytonutrient, and they all are needed in our microbiome to help create health and to help us heal. And the reason we do such a large amount of produce, and this becomes really time consuming, is because you need that amount to actually get your microbiome to a place where it can produce the things that you need to heal your body with, those nutrients that it can process and utilize, and that fiber it can use to grow stronger and protect your immune system function. The 3 cups of sulfur-containing food, like I spoke about already, we've got cabbage and we've got onions and all cruciferous veggies like broccoli and cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. These are those detoxifying fruits and veggies. So that, and we always want to have these grass-fed meats and organ meats and wild fish. Now, you can do this if you're a vegetarian, and I would suggest you look up on the Wahls website, Terry Wahls, the drterrywahls.com website, which she has a section for vegetarians, but it's really finding good quality grass-fed meats and organ meats. Organ meats are so nutritious. And for those of you who don't like organ meats, I will sometimes recommend for my patients as they're healing grass-fed liver or grass-fed beef organs pills, because we just sometimes need to get the nutrients in to start the healing. And the most incredible thing about the human body is that once it starts its healing process and it starts on that trajectory of healing, it really just keeps going if you just keep feeding it. It's like a slow progression. And then all of a sudden the healing starts taking course and the body wants to be healthy. It just needs the removing of inflammatory stressors, be them physical stressors like toxins, overgrown bacteria and parasites, EMF and unhealthy drinking water, stressful situations and individuals and thoughts. We need to remove those things, and then we need to nourish by having a nourishing food, by having sleep and restorative, nourishing exercise. And the other piece that is so important is having meaning in life. One of the biggest other pieces of the Wahls Protocol is having meaning in life. You know, if you are, and Dr. Wahls talks about this when she shares her story, initially for her, it was just to be able to sit up and enjoy her family and not keep progressing and not having face pain. That was a good life. That was meaningful life. And as she started to heal, she wanted to share her story. And so sharing with her community and helping train other doctors was even more meaningful, and feeling a part of community and that you contribute somehow to community is so healing. It produces healing biochemical reactions the same way, but in the opposite side, that stressful feelings like despair and loneliness can create inflammatory particles. Feeling a sense of purpose and joy, even the simple things, as she enjoyed when she first just stopped having the face pain, in those simple moments. And I implore you along your journey of healing to really take note in the small, quiet moments, and celebrate your wins. You know, I had a patient last week who was able to go for a 10-minute hike without feeling exhausted, without having to take a nap. That doesn't seem like much, but for her, it was huge. She's a mom of 2 preteens and has to sleep half the day to get there, and is even so tired that she has a hard time meal prepping and getting her self-nourished. So huge wins. And I just ask you to celebrate those small wins that are so meaningful for you, because it's just one step at a time. And as much as the Wahls Protocol may look overwhelming, it's really actually very, very easy to follow. And I use it for a lot of my patients. And I hope that you'll share this with someone who needs the information. I absolutely love watching people share information, and there's only so many of you I can get to. So if you know someone who could use this, share it with them. Share with them Dr. Wahls' story of hope. It's the most inspiring thing I have seen in the last decade. And I will share with you that you cannot deny that food can be, and a diet and lifestyle approaches to healing can be radically transforming. And I want to help you create an epidemic of health in your life and in your community and with your family and friends by sharing these simple steps.